Hey man.
Okay. What's up, brother?
Hey, how's it going?
It's yeah, it's going pretty good.
Are
How
you
you
are
feeling?
you are you ready to talk about Tank McGregor?
I mean, among other things, yeah, sure. Let's first off, can we talk about something else real quick? I don't know, maybe your dime store luchador mask. What are you, like a praying mantis?
No, this is Tank McGregor's faceplate thing.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
I made my own.
I
I
see
can't
that.
I can't see anything in it,
Really,
but
because you look really functional.
I don't think I am functional, but well, I mean, we could just dive in. I think I've got it queued up. I think I'm on the right thing. Hang on. How do I do this? God, I can't see anything. All right, here we go. All right,
You,
so let's talk about Tank McGregor.
that's not Tank McGregor.
What?
that's
Hang on,
that's
hang on.
that's
Son of a. Well, welcome to the first episode of Billy and Dan Kickback, where we talk about comics that are the indiest of indie. I am your resident comic book veteran, Billy.
And I am your, I'm just Dan. I'm your friendly neighborhood Spider Dan.
So this week we are talking about the comic Tank McGregor and the Mechanical Menace. This is a book with a story and art by Reynaldo Garza, colors by Michael Woods, and it was edited by Brutally Honest Jerks.
I think those are the best type of editors because as a creator, Billy, you can honestly tell you that your friends and your loved ones are going to be your most honest critics, right?
Oh yeah, my friends tell me when I do anything wrong, and it's sometimes
So
like it feels personal.
yeah.
So I picked this book up on Lesser Known Comics Batch 4 Kickstarter campaign about a year ago. But you can get your very own copy of Tank McGregor and the Mechanical Menace by going to tankmcgregor.com and visiting the store. They've got a digital option, and they've also got a printed edition that you can purchase. What did you think of Tank McGregor and the Mechanical Menace?
Man, I loved every bit of it. The story itself didn't take itself seriously. Like,
Not at all. Yeah, no. And not in like a bad way, because a lot
right?
of times
Yeah,
stories they kind of get a little too far in on that. But no, this one did really well finding that balance of not taking itself too seriously, but taking itself seriously enough that you don't lose the thread.
it kept me wanting to read. I read the first couple pages and I was hooked. Like it got me. And that was just the prologue. That wasn't even building any story. That was just saying, this is what I've created. This is so you understand what's going on. It was just great.
Yeah, the
Like
whole thing to me, like I got this. I kept coming back to this feeling as I was reading through it. It almost felt like a parody or an homage to like 80s action movies.
it did. I got a lot of Hitchhiker's Guide vibes from this. You got that kind of humor, that kind of comedy written into this. It's not a straightforward telling of space because again, everything is space this or space that.
Yeah, like you're going to space jail, and you better pray to space Jesus, or you're going to go to
Yeah,
space hell. It's
right.
very tongue in cheek, and actually, and the art style, it is more on the cartoony side. To me, like it didn't stay with me, but my initial reaction was that it felt like the comic book adaptations of Rick and Morty.
This is drawn, you could very much tell by someone who is honestly kind of for themselves. Like they started, it felt like they started this to write a story that they just had. Does that make sense to anybody out there? Like he's not doing this because he wants money. He wants money. Of course, everybody wants money for the content they're creating. But I think it felt like this started off more of a like a pet project, something that he just wanted to do.
So I don't know if the PDF copy has the extra material at the back of it.
At the very
But
end, it had a couple pages of it. Yeah.
yeah, so you can it's fun to kind of see the evolution of Tank McGregor come along visually through these sketches. But yeah, I totally dug it. With that having been said, do you want to get into the story?
Yeah.
with a
Absolutely.
heavy dose of spoiler warnings. We are going to talk about the story. So this is the first episode, so I want to kind of lay this out. So the reason that we're doing this is because there's so few places online where anybody talks about the actual plot and stories in these crowdfunded comic books. And so that's kind of the point to what we're doing. That's why, like, I'm not having the creator on for this. Like, this is from a Kickstarter that was funded probably over a year ago at this point. Like, that's not what this is about. Now, we don't want to ever be the reason somebody doesn't get future projects funded. So we're not here to bash anybody, but we are here to read and talk about these comics like so many other podcasts and YouTube channels talk about Marvel and DC and the bigger indie comics from Image and Dark Horse and things like that. This campaign, like I said, they're not trying to get funded. They already got funded. All right. So you want to tell me what the story was, Dan?
The story is Tank McGreggor, who absolutely has the greatest 1980s anti-hero name. He's a bounty hunter. I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. He's a space bounty hunter because everything is space this side or the other. But he's a space bounty hunter. He's a mildly successful one at that. And he absolutely loves and lives for the contract.
Yes. He
so
will, to the point where at the very beginning, when he busts this guy for selling robot drugs or whatever the hell it was. Well, so his contract was for the drug selling. But then whenever the cops were there, they were like, oh, hey, well, this guy also was wanted for murder, so you can get paid out on that contract too. But Tank's like, no, that's not the contract I took, so I won't accept that money. I accepted the contract for the drug charges, so I'll just be taking that. Which is like that weird line in the sand. I mean,
it does feel like that type of stuff is where the parody fits in, because you know for a fact that anybody else would have absolutely taken the extra money for doing the thing, but he's a contract man. He lives and bleeds for the contract. So he's a contract man, and he's apparently not a very good one because he doesn't have a whole lot of contracts in his queue. So he's kind of hitting low on his in his space bank account, I guess, or his credit account, which leads him to take a random, I guess it's a salvage job where he's got to go pick up a lost machine, which takes him to like an uninhabited planet that is filled or has the manufacturing plant of sex bots.
Sexy robots.
And this kind of leads me into, this is probably the most realistic thing about this story, is that if there was space creations like this, I think sex bots and things like that would be highly coveted.
Would exist for sure. One of the things that I like, and this is kind of gets into the parody aspect of like that 80s, early 90s action movie tough guy. There's a scene in here when he's talking to the two guys that he's taking this contract, the salvage job contract for, and he lights a cigarette by firing his pistol at the tip of it and lighting it with the gun with the muzzle flash. So as it turns out, the sex robot, like the big question, like the big thing or theme of this is this robot that she gains sentience and runs off. And the manufacturer hires Tank McGregor to go get her. But the twist is that Tank McGregor has a robot former lover and only friend sidekick that floats around with him. And there's this constant back and forth about, like what role robots or, like AI or whatever has for, I mean, it's not like philosophical. I wouldn't go that deep, but there is enough there that that's kind of playing with that theme of, are these robots people, to the point where the sex bot that runs away actually runs across a group of robots in the desert who are just hanging out, and they've decided that they want to try to be human. One of them's even wearing like a flesh torso, like he's got a little pee-pee hanging between his robot legs.
I didn't see that until just now. Oh my god. Oh my God,
Um,
that's amazing.
but yeah, they all ran away. This little group of robots, they all ran away, and their whole thing is that they want to try to integrate into human society. Well, it takes kind of a weird turn because they say, oh, well, living creatures eat the flesh of other living creatures, so we should eat the flesh of robots. And so they try to eat the sex bot, and she kills all of them violently. So basically, the big twist at the end of the story here is that the two people that hired Tank to track this robot down were actually sex bots themselves, who got sent off to work in some red light district on some planet, and they were butthurt about being built for that purpose. And so they returned and they found this guy who had been experimenting with turning robots into people and people into robots and so on and so forth. So they had themselves transformed into humans, and then they turned all of the people who were making the sex bots, like all the people who actually worked in the facility, turned them into sex bots. And the sex bot that woke up and ran away was just the first one to wake up and run away. And they wanted that robot killed so that it
Yeah,
wouldn't
they wouldn't
disclose
spread.
their secrets.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I wouldn't want my secret to be out like that. So yeah, I would do everything I can to put a little hush on that. Which brings us to the end of this, where it's Tank that shows up at the end of the story here, and he does it in true 80s fashion. He crashes through the ceiling. I think he actually mentioned that he went out of his way to find a cool way to enter into that room.
Yes.
So he comes in crashing down, guns blazing, and he is just handing everything to these people. Like they release the robots to come and I guess because they don't really attack because they're not violent, but they definitely they have a program in mind, and they are programmed for sex. So they come, and it's funny the way that they had gone through and said it, because it wasn't like they weren't trying to seduce him. It was more like they were trying to be his girlfriend, and it was like, oh, hey, how do you like to do this thing? Oh, I want to come over here. Well, have you been to the movies? Or like, it felt like they were trying to like lure him into becoming their
Yes,
boyfriend.
He was swarmed by the girlfriend experience.
Which is not fun. But of course, his ex lover, robot, best friend, only friend, decided that is it a he? Is a she? What is it? I couldn't figure it out. Like, it's got a dude's name.
Yeah, it's name his robot sidekick's name is Jansen, and he's referred to as a he, but also he wears women's wigs. I don't know. It's ambiguous because he's just a sphere
with a hole.
With a hole, which I think we can draw our own conclusions about what that hole has seen.
Gross.
But it's a penis. He saw a penis. Tank McGregor's penis.
Yes, Jansen attacks or flies himself into one of the creators there, and releasing the, I guess, go get him button. So after Tank catches it in true 80s fashion, like this is same vibes as you would have gotten from I'd say Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Actually, you know what? I'm sorry, not Guardians of the Galaxy. It was the Guardians of the Galaxy game. Whenever Star-Lord was retrieving his headphones at the very end of the game, it was very flying Pegasus, jumping in, grabbing it in the last second with the bolt of lightning striking behind him. I could have seen all of that happening in this scene as well. Like that was the vibe I got.
Yes.
And of course,
the lightning is implied.
Yeah, of course. Well, isn't it always? It's so hard to catch on paper. Well, at this point, he catches the button, presses it, and party's over for the sex bots, but also party's over for Jansen as well.
Yes, because this guy, like, whose name I don't remember. This is Mr. Bob, and I don't remember the other one's name. This one's not Mr. Bob.
It was Bob and Toast.
Was it Toast?
Yeah, because the letters in their robot names spelt out, like if you were to look at the 7, that would be a T, and the 4 would be an A. But it was Mr. Bob and Mr. Toast.
Oh, okay. All
Because
right.
one
Well,
was
Mr.
eight, one was
Toast,
808. Yeah.
Mr. Toast rips Jansen in half before having his head completely smashed by Tank McGregor and murdered.
And of course, this only entices or incites what would happen to anybody who lost their best friend, ex-robot lover, only friend. How many times are we going to say that wrong?
Well, at least that one more time.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I really liked about this is that he didn't take away from the gore. Like when he killed somebody or if he squished somebody's head, he went deep into it. Like that's just he did a really good job of displaying that, because that's one thing that I think is missing whenever you're reading a comic book, is that you're missing a little bit of the, I guess, the rated R part of it, because everything's really rated G, PG even. But
yeah, especially when you're dealing with Marvel and DC, because they have to kind of tone it down to appeal to the largest audience possible.
yeah, I think Ronaldo Garza did a really good job of keeping that mix in there.
Yeah, I agree, and it's very much, again, that's part of the Rick and Morty vibe to me. The way that he draws the gore is very like cartoony, tongue in cheek, like you would see in a Rick and Morty cartoon.
Yes. Yeah, and it's not overkill. It's like you're not reading a bunch of blood. It's tasteful.
So to kind of wrap the story up, they head back to the ship. Tank patches Jansen's program into the ship itself to bring him back online. And one of the things that's kind of gotten hinted at a couple of times in the story is that this is not the first time that Jansen has been destroyed and Tank has rebooted him. But Jansen doesn't seem to be aware of this. And there's something else going on here too, because Tank makes reference a couple of times, I think, to not knowing how much of someone is going to still be there, that something about Jansen is lessened every time that he has to reboot him. And I don't know if I'm getting the sense that someone's consciousness was uploaded into Jansen's program, but every time he has to reboot the program, less of that person is there. But I don't know, but maybe we'll find out in future releases.
Yeah, I think it's got to be that, because they hint at artificial intelligence on this, but the 2 times that we've come across it in the story, one has been the robot who used to be a human, which that doesn't really count because that's not artificial intelligence. That's just intelligence that's been put into an artificial body. And then we have Jansen, who we thought was artificial intelligence until we find out that it was a situation where it actually could be a consciousness, kind of like the same situation you're having here with the sex bot.
Yeah,
so
it's Jansen is like an Ultron.
Yeah, Jansen
An
on a much
MCU Ultron, not comic book Ultron.
But yeah, yeah, I don't know what the whole end of the story is like. I really thought that the robot was going to join forces with them, like they were going to have a group thing going.
Well, so I really thought that what was going to happen, I didn't think that the robot was going to join. I thought that something was going to happen where the human sex bot, whatever, that something was going to happen to that machine's programming and it was going to wipe out the person, and Jansen was going to get uploaded into the sex bot.
Oh yeah,
that is what I thought that's where it was going. And when it didn't go there, I was like, I don't know. If there was one thing in the whole story that I felt was a missed opportunity, I thought that was it. But
I wonder
maybe
if it was missed on purpose.
Yeah, I don't know where the story's direction is going to be going in the future. I'm assuming that the whole Tank Jansen history and relationship will continue to develop. So maybe there's more that needs to be done there because Jansen begs several times to be given a proper body, and Tank keeps telling him no. And that would have, and that's also why I kept thinking, oh, well, this is going to be Tank, or this is going to be Jansen getting that proper body, because he keeps begging for one. And here's this body that's got all this jumbled up programming in it. So it just really felt like the obvious solution. And maybe if this was going to be a standalone book, that's the direction that they would have gone. But there is another Tank McGregor graphic novel that has been successfully backed on Kickstarter as of a few weeks ago of this recording. So the story will continue, and we'll see what else they've got in store for us.
Well, all right, man. And I'm assuming that this the sex robot. I'm sorry, the robot's name. It named itself Stargazer at the end. And again, it was one of those situations where the letters kind of matched up to a numbering system there. But Stargazer is going to be, I would assume, to be a part of the story somewhere, because it has a name now. Like if you were going to leave it autonomous, and you would not give it a name, right?
Yeah, and we'll see. Like I said, the next volume is on its way.
I've read this, and I found out literally moments before we started recording this that there was a second book that was on Kickstarter. I unfortunately missed it by a couple weeks or a short period of time to back it. But yeah, I'm actually going to go, and once it's available, I'm going to download it. I'm going to read it.
All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for us today. This has been the very first episode of Billy and Dan Kickback, where we cover the indiest of indie comics. I'm Billy, your resident indiest.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there. I'm really good at that.
You did, jackass. My name is Billy, and I'm your resident comic book veteran.
And my name is Dan, and I'm going to have a better, you know what? I keep saying that. I'd say I'd have a better name, and I have a track record of not having better names. So I am Dan. Dan, question mark, question mark, question mark.
I think that you should just permanently be your friendly neighborhood Spider Dan.
We'll see.